It is the 9th day of July 2025. Karibu sana. This is the Daily Report. Catherine Simoloi is on the sign language interpretation. I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyaringita. The big question that you're asking today is what next for Kenya? And trying to understand this question and this conversation, we're going to be joined live with Nyaringita. He's going to be interviewing Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka at his residence. What next for Kenya? For your questions and feedback, talk to us. About 2047 is our SMS number. 0793 267 279 is our WhatsApp number. But first, to the highlights. Tonight, shoot them but don't kill them.
Anaenda kuchoma mali ya watu wengine. Mtu kama huyo apigwe risasi miguu, aende hospitali, akienda kotini. Wasimuue lakini wapige hii miguu ivunjike.
President Ruto now orders the police to shoot Kenyans in the legs. Also tonight, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua dismisses claims of plans of overthrowing Ruto's government.
Nobody has any plan to overthrow your administration, Mr. President. We want to face you on the ballot in August 2027. So just relax and stop crying wolf that anybody wants you out of office unconstitutionally.
Gachagua claims there is a squad that works under the DIG and NIS, targeting and killing innocent protesters.
My God, I just pray for justice. Let me be the last mother to weep.
Plus, post-mortem reveals that the 12-year-old girl Bridget Njoki was killed by a bullet.
We found a penetrating injury to the brain that caused a traumatic brain injury.
Bridget was shot dead in Ndumberi on Monday. And Kalonzo on the record.
This cannot be the kind of country we all look forward to nurturing.
What next for Kenya? Tonight, we speak to Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. Yes, that's right. We will be talking to Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, right now crossing over to Nyaringita, just to get a sense of what next for Kenya. Dibal?
Many thanks indeed for joining us here on the Daily Report. We're at the nerve center of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Command Center. And of course, today we're holding court with him just to interrogate and look at the current state of play of where the country is regarding and the confluence of issues that is affecting the country currently. And of course, we shall be delving deeper, looking at the Gen Z protest, the Saba, of course, demonstrations that we had just recently. And that toll is ticking up. The number stands at 140 since 2023. This is a niggling worry for the country, especially when it comes to human rights. And these are some of the questions I shall be posing to His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka.
Thank you very much, Dibal. And yes, you can always tune in right here and continue staying with us. Talk to us. What kind of questions would you like Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper Party leader, to answer for you? What feedback do you have for him? What next for Kenya? But first, let's continue with our updates for you. Tonight, a post-mortem report has confirmed that 12-year-old Bridget Njoki, who was shot on Saba Day, died from a bullet wound to the head. The report reveals that the bullet was lodged deep in her skull, causing severe brain damage that ultimately claimed her young life. Her grieving family is now demanding answers and justice for the child whose life and dreams ended far too soon. Andrin Kilemi begins our bulletin tonight.
They say the pain of losing a child is one no parent should ever endure. Yet today, Lucy Ngoge bears that unbearable weight. Her eyes hollow with sorrow. The post-mortem report has confirmed what her family feared all along, that Bridget died from a bullet wound to the head.
We found a penetrating injury to the brain that caused a traumatic brain injury, and it was consistent with a gunshot injury.
Bridget wasn't out in the streets. She wasn't chanting slogans. She wasn't throwing stones. She was at home watching the chaos of the Sabasaba protests unfold on TV beside her parents when death found her anyway.
People thought I'm crazy. Where the bullet have come from when I was inside the house? They thought I'm crazy. Today I'm here. The doctors have said it is true that she was shot inside the house. Oh, Jesus. What madness. What a mad country!
The very weapon that shattered Bridget's skull has now been handed over to the Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA. The family now hopes that the IPOA will be able to track back the bullet to the officer who pulled the trigger.
If we have the bullets, we should be able to confirm the officer responsible for this heinous and careless act.
Njoki is one among the 31 lives lost during the Sabasaba demonstrations, according to data from the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. And as the nation mourns, human rights groups have raised an alarm over what they term as undue pressure on grieving families to conduct postmortems without proper guidance.
We are calling upon the families of the other people who were killed not to agree, even if they are given money by the government, not to agree to conduct postmortems in the absence of IPOA, in the absence of independent pathologists, and in the absence of other human rights organizations.
Calls are now mounting for the police and the government to protect citizens not with bullets, but with justice, dignity, and accountability.
I may not get my girl back, but please let the leaders know if they have children. It's painful to bury your child. Wish angekuwa mgonjwa, I would have been okay. It's very painful, ni uchungu. I may not get Bridget back, but please let her be the last sacrifice because of maandamano.
As Bridget's parents leave the morgue today, they leave with not just grief, but unanswered questions. Why was a 12-year-old girl caught in the crossfire of protests? Who pulled the trigger? And who will take responsibility? Andrin Kilemi, TV47, Dendegwa, Kiambu County.
Thank you, Kilemi, for that. Speaking of pulling the trigger, President William Ruto has directed security agencies to firmly deal with those looting and vandalizing businesses during protests. Speaking in Nairobi's Kilimani Estate during the launch of affordable housing project on Wednesday morning, Ruto said such people should be shot and taken to court. And as Samira Mohammed now reports, the president emphasized that while the constitution protects the right to protest, criminal acts such as theft, arson and vandalism cannot be tolerated, further instructing police officers not to kill but shoot and break the legs of any violent protester.
Hapana. Hapana. Hapana, hapana. Hiyo ni upuzi.
President William Ruto has finally broke his silence on the wave of protests rocking the nation.
Hapana, hiyo mchezo watu waache. Hapana.
A fuming President William Ruto has vowed to use whatever means available to ensure that national security is upheld and those sponsoring violence have been dealt with decisively.
And we are going to use whatever means that is available to make sure that we stabilize the country. We cannot accept mayhem and anarchy to destroy the development we have in this country.
The vexed president further directed security agencies to firmly deal with those looting and vandalizing businesses during protests. President William Ruto directed the police to shoot on-site criminals who masqueraded as protesters, to burn and loot businesses and people's property.
Mtu ambaye anaenda kuchoma biashara ya mtu mwingine, mtu ambaye anachukua moto anaenda kuchoma biashara ya mtu, anaenda kuchoma mali ya watu wengine. Mtu kama huyo apigwe risasi miguu, aende hospitali akienda kotini. Yes. Yeah. Wasimuue lakini wapige hii miguu ivunjike ndio aende kotini, aende hospitali akienda kotini.
Ruto emphasized that while the Constitution protects the rights to protest, criminal acts such as theft, arson and vandalism cannot be tolerated, further instructing police officers not to kill but shoot and break the legs of any violent protester.
Mtu yeyote ambaye anaenda kupiga polisi, mtu yeyote anaenda kuvamia police station, that is a declaration of war in the Republic of Kenya. It is not acceptable. Sijui kama tunaelewana, my friends. No, enough is enough. Haiwezi kuendelea tena. I will protect property ya wananchi wa Kenya, maisha ya wananchi wa Kenya, biashara ya wananchi wa Kenya. It is the responsibility of the government of Kenya, which I lead, that is going to make sure hii vita ya kuharibu mali na kuchoma biashara ya watu itakoma. It must stop.
Issuing a stern warning to all leaders involved in sponsoring the recent protests, President William Ruto has condemned the attacks on police officers and security installations, terming them acts of terrorism and a direct declaration of war.
Mtu yeyote ambaye anaenda kupiga polisi, mtu yeyote anaenda kuvamia police station, that is a declaration of war in the Republic of Kenya. It is not acceptable. Sijui kama tunaelewana, my friends. No, enough is enough.
The president's statement comes amid heightened political unrest and public demonstrations triggered by broader dissatisfaction with the rising cost of living. President Ruto's directive reflects a nuanced shift in government policy away from the deadly crackdown that characterized previous protests and towards what he described as a measured force. While many protests have been peaceful, several have turned violent, with business looted, property destroyed and clashes reported between demonstrators and the police, with criminal elements taking advantage of the situation. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has reported at least 31 deaths and over 100 injuries related to the ongoing protests, sparking calls for police accountability. Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Samira. And still on President William Ruto's farm speech today, President William Ruto now says enough is enough in relation to the ongoing protests in the country against his government. The tough-speaking Ruto cautioned anyone who is planning his government through unconstitutional means, saying they will not succeed. Chichi Josephine with more.
A tough-speaking President William Ruto Wednesday declared war with those who he described as attempting to forcibly and unlawfully remove him from power through unconstitutional means.
Atuwalete maafa Kenya. Ati ndio wapindue serikali ya Kenya kabla ya 2027. Mimi nataka niwaambie wajaribu. Watajua hawajui. Wajaribu.
President William Ruto accused a section of leaders of inciting youth to violence with the aim of destabilizing the government and saying they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Na kuna watu wanafikiria kwamba wataendesha fujo Kenya hii. Na wao ni viongozi wamechochea hiyo maneno. Wanalipa vijana kwenda choma biashara ya ule.
The president said, whereas Kenyans have constitutionally enshrined a right to demonstrate and picket, the government will not tolerate the wanton destruction of property witnessed in the recent protests.
Wale wote ambao wamepatikana katika hiyo njama ya kuiba na kupora mali ya wananchi na kuchoma biashara za watu wengine, watachukuliwa hatua ya sheria na wote watafungwa.
President spoke in Kilimani area of Nairobi during the launch of an affordable housing project, where he reiterated that he will not again ignore those dragging the country into destruction, accusing them of being impatient for the 2027 election.
Na kama wako na mpango, si tukutane 2027? Watengeneze sera yao, tukutane na hawa 2027. Njia ya mkato hapa katikati hakuna.
Further, he cautioned against weaponizing youth unemployment, pointing out that the challenge did not begin when he came in power nearly 3 years ago.
Tuwache kuwachochea vijana wa Kenya. Kazi ya unemployment haikuanza wakati wa serikali hii. In fact, shida ya unemployment ni kwa sababu hatujakuwa na mpango ama taratibu ya serikali vile nimeweka. Ndio tumekuwa na mrindiko mkubwa.
The president accused the leaders of using the youth to cause chaos and violence in the name of agitating for good governance, noting that the only change of governance is through the ballot and not protests.
Hii ni nchi ya demokrasia na wananchi ndio wanaamua kwa debe uongozi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Hatuwezi kuamua ati uongozi wa Kenya kupitia fujo ama kupitia vita ama kuharibu mali ya watu wengine. That is not going to happen in this country.
On the government employment agenda, he said more than 300,000 young people are now employed under the affordable housing program in more than 200,000 units being built across the country.
We must tell each other the truth.
Chichi, Josephine, TV47.
And in a rebuttal to President William Ruto's statement today, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has dismissed President William Ruto's claims that the opposition is plotting a coup to overthrow the government through protests. Instead, Gachagua claims Ruto's pronouncements are part of a well-calculated plan by the president to invoke the Terrorism Act and persecute opposition leaders in a coordinated campaign that also involves profiling the Kikuyu community through state-sponsored attacks. Senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau reports.
Former DP Rigathi Gachagua, flanked by a section of his allies at his current home, went bare-knuckled on President William Ruto over the one-term campaign, which President Ruto claims is a plot to overthrow the government. Gachagua hitting back and calling it a bluff, dismissing Ruto's pronouncements as an excuse to persecute the opposition and profile the Kikuyu community.
This narrative you are creating that there is an attempt to overthrow your government is for you to have the opportunity to use the Terrorism Act to profile communities and to persecute leaders who are opposed to your administration. Please relax. We want you to serve your one term. Nobody wants you out of government unconstitutionally. Nobody has any plan to overthrow your administration, Mr. President. We want to face you on the ballot in August 2027. So just relax and stop crying wolf that anybody wants you out of office unconstitutionally.
Gachagua putting Ruto on the spot on his shoot-to-kill order to protesting civilians, telling him instead to focus on the challenges facing the country.
I want, with a lot of humility, to advise you to stop being angry. That will not help. You need to know what you need to do because you have not been listening to the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya are more angry than you are. They are angry because you have overtaxed them. There is wanton corruption. There is abductions and extrajudicial killings. There is ethnic profiling and other ills that bedevil your administration.
Hata waseme ati mimi ni bibi ya rais. Sinasikia huko kwa mitandao ananiita bibi ya Ruto.
The former DP and DCP party leader exposing Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wah and Buri MP Mugambi Rindikiri as the president's spanner boys who orchestrated the destruction of the Kikuyu community businesses among governors and other close allies of the president.
All these attacks of vital installations were stage managed by William Ruto through Kimani Ichung'wah to create the opportunity to prefer charges against people using the Anti-Terrorism Act. That is the reality. So nobody has attacked any police station.
Gachagua claims Ruto has a killer squad of 101 National Intelligence Service officers who supported goons in the Sabasaba protests to cause mayhem in Mount Kenya and neighboring regions by targeting businesses owned by the Kikuyu community.
We remind William Ruto that his ICC cases are not yet over. They have been posed after witnesses disappeared. And what he is pretending over are crimes under the Rome Statute. It is clear history is repeating itself. And the architect William Ruto is back on the deck. He is hell-bent to finish his unfinished business with the people of Mount Kenya, destroy their businesses and make them black sheep of Kenya.
Apul Kamau, TV47.
And the toll of those that died in the recent Sabasaba protests keeps on rising, with at least 33 people confirmed dead so far. Now, to many, lives lost may remain just a statistic, but to the bereaved families, 33 is not just a number. It represents 33 lives that mattered and that were cut short. 33 families whose lives are forever shattered by grief and the uncertain journey of seeking justice. Tonight, TV47 puts a face to the names of the victims who suffered the alleged police excesses during the protests.
The statistic for those who died during the Sabasaba protest currently stands at 33. But to the bereaved families, 33 is not just a number. It represents 33 of their loved ones whose lives were cut short in circumstances that could have been avoided. To the families, 33 represents their daughters and sons. Bridget Njoki, a 12-year-old girl, joined the statistic of those that died during protests at 6:20 p.m. on Monday. Njoki had not been part of the protests. She was hit on the head by a bullet while watching a TV program from the safety of her parents' house. To the grade 7 learners at Benson Jau Primary School, Njoki is not just another number. She was their class prefect. To her parents, Njoki was a young girl who had the whole world as her oyster, as she was full of dreams that were cut short. In an interview with TV47, Njoki's mother hesitated to ask for justice. In her own words,
mtoto wangu nitaipataje? Na hata kama nitapata haki, watarudisha mtoto wangu hai tena, hawatamrudisha kweli.
In Kajiado County, the statistic stands at 5. The Sabasaba demos claimed the lives of 5 young men, leaving behind 5 shattered families. Paul Mboro Issa was a 27-year-old newlywed from Ngong, whose curiosity cost him his life. Mboro had stepped out of his house in Embulebul town in Ngong to catch a glimpse of the protest happening nearby. His curiosity had not even been satisfied when the fatal headshot came, killing him instantly. And just like that, Mboro became a statistic, but not to the expectant wife that he left behind. To her, Mboro was her husband and the father to her unborn baby. 200 kilometers from where Paul was shot, Jeremiah Oscar, a popular Buddha rider in Ngong, joined the rising statistic of victims in an almost similar manner. According to his mother, he was driving home from the garage when the protesters in Ngong clashed with police officers. On his way, a sniper aimed and shot him fatally on the neck. And with that single shot, Oscar became yet another statistic. Joseph Kagiri, a 27-year-old welder based in Kiserian, lost his life to a bullet. He had visited home to have a talk with his father when he died during the protests in Ngong. For his mother Gladys Mudhoni, losing her firstborn son in such a manner has left her hurt and broken. 12 kilometers from Kagiri's home is yet another family struggling to come to terms with the loss of their 19-year-old son. Moses Tobiko, a boda rider, was shot at 9 p.m. on Monday by police officers who are still struggling to contain the protests. 21-year-old Brian Kimtai from Kitengela also lost his life to a bullet. His mother explains that the police officer who shot Kimtai had in the past had scuffles with her son regarding the graffiti on his motorbike. She feels that her son's death was a personal vendetta. For her, she has vowed that her son's death will not be in vain and someone has to pay for her loss.
Mwenye alishuti mtoto wangu nataka achukuliwe hatua. Hata kama hatachukuliwa mimi nitamchukulia.
A bullet fired by a policewoman in Kagumo, Kirinyaga County fatally injured 21-year-old Peter Masharia, adding him to the growing list of victims of alleged police excesses. To his sister, who has taken to her social media platforms to mourn him, his death has forever changed her and her family. Elsewhere in Kangemi, The mother to Elvis Musavi broke down when she rushed to Eagles Hospital after a chilling phone call that informed her of her son's fate. She found him already dead. To his widow, Elvis was the husband of her youth and the father to her 6-month-old son. The mother feels that the shoot-to-kill order by the CS Interior Security Kipchumba Murkomen is to blame for her loss. In Kiambu County on Wednesday, the family of Ephantus Kamau Waithaka, a 30-year-old matatu driver from Nyandarua County, is seeking justice after he was shot during the Sabasaba protest in Kikuyu, Kiambu County. A post-mortem conducted Wednesday confirmed that he died from excessive bleeding caused by a gunshot wound to the hip.
He was shot once, the bullet entering the right chest cavity, perforating the lungs, going to the abdomen, lacerating the liver.
The family says he was not part of the demonstrations and believes his killing was both unjust and avoidable. A lawyer has announced plans to take legal action against the officers involved, calling Kamau's death a senseless killing that must not go unpunished. 33 victims who lost their lives in the protests leave behind grieving families. They leave behind widows and orphans, who to them, 33 lives is too many lost. Muthoni Brenda for TV47, Nairobi.
And the accusations that members of a single community orchestrated the violence and looting witnessed during the 7th July Sabasaba protests have sent mixed reaction both online and offline, as a section of business community from most affected regions vow to protect their belongings to avoid future atrocities. And as Micah Gongo reports, the affected regions claim that those who vandalized and torched their properties were ferried from unknown regions, causing mayhem and leaving residents without places to make a living.
What started as anti-finance bill of 2024 a year ago to commemoration of those who lost their lives has since turned to a call against poor governance, broken promises, corruption and unemployment under the Kenya Kwanza administration. Human rights organizations such as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and UN Human Rights have expressed their widespread disgust and disapproval of police-related killings, demanding accountability. The recent chaos had hot on the Mount Kenya region, with many protests witnessed in the region. In Murang'a County, the business community has vowed to collaborate and protect their businesses from goons, who are seemingly targeting coordinated and planned attacks to destroy main businesses.
Serikali ina jukumu ya kulinda biashara zetu na kulinda raia. But kuna pahali tunaona serikali inaenda inakosa kufanya kazi yake.
Kama kuna vita ya president na Rigathi na hao wengine, wacha ifanyiwe na huko juu. Wacha isiletwe kwa biashara zetu.
The Business Community Forum, who anticipated losing more than 500 million shillings, say the goons who attacked Murang'a had unfamiliar faces.
Wenye walifanya hawakuwa wa hapa. Tuko na information walimwagwa na basi 6, vijana kama 300.
Pengine wale waliwaleta ni kutoka Murang'a, na wale walilengwa ni watu wa Murang'a, wana biashara. Na tunasema huwezi kuwa ati umeajiriwa kwa supermarket na unaenda kupiga supermarket.
The Meru County Chamber of Commerce says traders lost goods worth more than 1 billion shillings, demanding area administration to conduct investigations and bring perpetrators to book.
Lakini sasa tusipembeleze sana kwa sababu goons. Huwezi kuongea na goons. You cannot talk peace with goons.
The DCI, today as I speak, we still have 1 or 3 in custody. We got orders that they remain there. Among them iko wanafunzi wetu kutoka hapa. Among them iko watu tutawahoji tujue ni watu gani.
In reaction to claims that elements of the Kikuyu community planned the violence and theft that occurred during the July 7th Sabasaba riots, Kenyans Online Tuesday evening started a campaign using the hashtag #WeAreAllKikuyus. The hashtag has since elicited mixed reactions after pro-government accounts attempted to launch a counter tag of "We Are All Kenyans" in efforts to quash the previous campaign. The National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, however, blames it squarely on former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Ichung'wah claiming that Gachagwa's allies, whom he has sponsored and shielded, are not victims but they are perpetrators, charged in courts of law with clear, damning evidence. In fact, Ichung'wah claims that his own home and that of his elderly parents were targeted. The courts in Kikuyu were touched. All these events he links to Gachagwa's allies now arrested, who he says are with undeniable evidence tying them to the carnage of destruction. In a statement, Ichung'wah added that the arrest of Gachagwa's allies in Limuru accused of torching the Kikuyu law courts and other public buildings in Kikuyu, and the attempts to torch his house were part of the plan. Meanwhile, 2 young people from Nyeri County were today arraigned in court, facing multiple charges related to June 25th protest in Nyeri town. The two, Judy Kengori and Zipporah Njeri, are accused of participating in unlawful assembly, theft and malicious damage of property. Chief Magistrate McKenna granted the 2 accused persons a cash bail of 70,000 shillings or an alternative bond of 200,000 shillings with a similar surety. The case will be mentioned on July 23rd of 2025. In Nakuru, more than 80 people were charged with cases linked to the Sabasaba protests.
Zile charges ambazo zililetwa mbele ya mahakama ni offensive conduct, conducive to breach of peace.
Many business people from the Mount Kenya region are now counting losses following the destructions. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Right, thank you for that, Mike Kagwango. It's 1:30, and we're taking a short break. My name is Stanley Nyaringita. On the other side of Karen, at Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Command Center is Dibal Ainea with that big conversation. What next for Kenya? Keep on talking to us. Quite a number of your feedback on our WhatsApp number 0793-267-279. Throw in all these questions for him. He'll be answering that after this particular short break. Don't go too far. Coming up after the break. Kalonzo on the record. What next for Kenya? Tonight, we speak to Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka.
This is Kenya's